Welcome back everyone to Visual Design for Multimedia. Today we are going to go over Mozilla Hubs in a little more detail, look at some intermediate to advanced features, and just hopefully get you comfortable in Mozilla Hubs a little bit more. So one thing I want to show you, I'm logged into Spoke, so if I wanted to create a new project, I've already gone and shown you this, but it shows you a bunch of featured themes that you can work off of. And I had someone ask me recently about like using a water world, right? And they have this amazing like surround lake theme, which we'll pull up in a minute. But I also wanted to show you, aside from these ones that are just under the featured tab, if you click this all button, you actually get a lot more themes that you can look at that people have submitted for open mixing and use. And so there's so many fun ones in here. Like I haven't even been to Pizza Rink yet, or Point Cloud House, or people have created a lot of really interesting ones. This Disruption World and Pin World here, and there's just so many fun ones in here, and it just keeps going and going. So there's quite a few more. Color Room, Ben's Mountain Retreat. Looks like there's Solaris, like another planet, another Solaris with a bunch of different stuff in it. So all of these are really interesting structures that people have left. So you're more than welcome to use some of these worlds as starting points. Obviously, you can't just take someone else's work and turn it in as yours, but you can use elements and some of the world structures and things like that, trees and bushes and assets that you need to fill out your own world. So it just keeps going and going. As I scroll down, there's so many fun, and I just didn't show that to you in the first lesson. It just keeps going and going. The longer I let it load, it seems like the more keep loading in. So anybody that has put them up, there's Stonehenge in England. I mean, there's so much good stuff in here. The moon, yeah. As you can see, the list just keeps filling. An underwater city, University of Wales. It just keeps going and going and going. So make sure you click on that all. This one, the white noise, looks amazing that someone created. White Dragon Noodle Bar 2.0. So this is what's fun. And when you go to like publishers, you can mark it, and I'll show you on the publish settings whether you want to share your world with others to be able to open it up. I think probably my like algae worlds are in here as well that I've created, so people could come in and you can either leave them free mixed or have them more copywritten so that people can't mess with them. But I'm still scrolling. It's going and going and going. There's the Virgin Galactic spaceship in there in one of them, and little boat docks, and yeah. So if I come back up to the top, I can also search those scenes. I can put in like the word water, and just like every underwater scene, anything that has the word water or underwater in it is gonna load up. I'm kind of curious about this underwater city, so I'm gonna open it. Just kind of curious to see what it looks like. Oh yeah, cool. Quite a world. They're using a 360 HDRI image in the background. That's how they're getting that kind of like cool underwater scene in the background. But then I can go above and below the surface. There's this road through it, and yeah, there's a lot going on here. All right, I'm going to go back out. So I just wanted to mention that you can find a whole lot more templates in there if you just click on all instead of featured. All right, let's go back into, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and go into this capstone show space that I had created because there's some nice advanced features in here. We load it up. Well, it looks like I had some kind of error, but that's okay. It was some kind of media load error going on. So I'm outside the building. I'm just going to zoom in so I'm inside the building. And there we go. It looks like a couple of my images from the past, or maybe it looks like these Vimeo videos. Yeah, I've had problems before where Vimeo videos don't show up in Spoke, but then when you publish it, it does show up. So that can be just, and you'll get some errors, but then they will load later. I don't know why you get those errors. It might be just the kind of the way they're listed, et cetera, et cetera. But all right, so one thing I wanted to mention was the scene camera, the scene preview camera. If I actually come out, let's see if I can find it in here. Oh no, it's not quite showing. I think it's right there. I must just have it right against the wall. Yeah. So basically, if I click on the scene preview, oh, there it is over there. Okay. So this allows you, when someone first comes to your hub and wants to see the world, you can position what that preview is going to look like, right? So if I come to, I'll pull it up just so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to open up, bear with me for a second, browser window here. See how I have that view right now loading up? Let me turn down the volume here. See how it started like right here? Well, that's because that is the view of my camera right now. So if I come back to Spoke, you'll see I wanted them to be able to see this is kind of the scene. So you can basically set up what is that first view when someone comes to your site before they join the room. And it does this little like soft drift basically on it. But that's what that is. That's so you can kind of set where that preview camera is. Every scene has one, but if you were wondering what that scene preview camera was, that's what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and close that hub that's open. And you can change its position. Obviously, you can rotate it. You can do all sorts of different things to change that however you want. As long as I don't save, that camera should be okay. So I wanted to mention that. Also wanted to mention some of these view options that we have up here in the top right. This is a lit view. But we can also turn on shadows and kind of see what happens if we enable shadows on different objects in our scenes. We can click on different objects and you'll see over here on the right, cast shadows or receive shadows. You can see as I turn that on, it's actually turning kind of dark in the scene because now it's receiving shadows from where the light sources are coming in. It'll also cast shadows like on the wall and things like that. So you can turn shadows on. You can also go to a wireframe mode if it helps you with like developing and just kind of seeing where all your files are. Sometimes it's good to be able to look in wireframe mode, and it can show you like some things that are really dense, like that model that we brought in, and other things that are kind of low poly. And I believe there's one more. Yeah, there's a normals map. Normals more show like what's the inside and outside, the backside, the front side of models. And so this, I don't have the full color spectrum down of how it's working in Hubs, but that you can see normals in a scene as well. I'll often pop between just like lit is good, but I don't want shadows on because it takes too long to see things, especially if I don't have shadows turned on a lot of objects. But sometimes wireframe helps as well. So I want to make sure we knew about that. And also wanted to show that you can preview. You kind of have two options to preview a scene. You can either open it in Hubs, and this doesn't publish it yet. It just opens it up in Hubs in sort of a temporary status, and you can create a room real quick. And then it's going to load up here. I can turn up the audio. Let me see, make sure you can actually hear the audio here. Let me change this to my, there we go. I think you'll be able to hear it now. And then I can join this room and kind of check it out and move around a little bit. Yep. As I move over here. There we go. You can probably hear that through my microphone now. Right? So it allows me to preview it without publishing it yet, because publishing actually like puts it up on the hub, right? You'll see I also have links in here and all sorts of stuff that I showed you in the last one. This takes you to like Riley Knott's website versus just the video that she has on the wall. I can pause this video at any point too, and I can move over, right? Okay. The other thing I wanted to show you while you're in here, while you're previewing, is you can actually copy and paste. You can make a link from one hub to another really easy. And I tend to like to do this inside of a live hub. Whoa, that's interesting. I kind of got like a little preview. That's weird. I've never had that happen before. It kind of just went low res on me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was like too close to the wall or something there. That was interesting. Everything's back, it looks like. There we go. You'll notice you heard the audio over here. We'll talk about it in a second, but I have spatialized audio in here as I get closer and closer. I don't know why I'm getting this resolution. It might be something about the preview, so I'm going to go ahead and close that real quick. If I want to, though, I could do publish to Hubs instead. I don't know why, but sorry, Hubs keeps logging me out. So like every 10 minutes, for some reason, you never used to do this. Now I have to log myself in. And of course, I have to send the email. And then wait for it for a second. There it is. It's really frustrating. I wish they'd just leave you logged in. There we go. So I'm going to save it. I could save it right now. I'm going to save this as the test version. I'm just going to do it as a test. And And this is where you can say allow remixing with Creative Commons if you want it to show up in that big list, or allow Mozilla to promote my scene. I'm going to have those off because this is like a private show for student work. But I can hit save and publish, and it's going to export it, and you get this great performance check that tells you like how you're doing on here. Like mine is using a lot of RAM because of the videos that I have in here. So you know, that's something I could cut down on, and a couple of large textures that I have in there. Probably some of these images are a little bit too high res, and I could scale those down. So it's using a lot of RAM. Otherwise, my lights are good. My connection is good. My materials are good, and my polygons are below 50,000 triangles, which is what we're looking for in an ideal scene. So you want to keep that below 50,000, and then if I wanted to, I could publish this scene and kind of go from there. But I'm not going to. I'm going to hit cancel on that. But I wanted to bring that up because we're going to talk about optimizing here in just a second. But I was about to say, though, like I'm going to open up a different hub here. So I'm going to open up one that's already published. And I wanted to show you how to make that link from one hub to another. So bear with me. This is a big world, so it takes a second to load up. But it's really easy. You can just paste a link from one to the other. So I'm going to join the room, and then you can pin it, and that'll save it in that room. Just to go back for a second, too, I'm going to join this room. Yep, there we go. Accept. You'll notice I actually already have two links in here because I have two other hubs. There's one over here. If I right-click, I can actually see it close up. If I want to, I can like teleport myself. I'm doing a right-click jump. Oh, I guess it didn't get me there. Let's see. It only goes so far. I don't know why I'm getting this weird low-res thing going on. It must be because I have Spoke open at the same time. That's really weird. Never had that happen before. Let me try that again. Let's open up this other one. It's like my computer is running out of memory or something like that, so I'm going to try this one. All right. So what I can do if I want to add another hub to a hub, I can go and just copy the link to a hub. So I've copied a link to another hub, and I can just paste it, and boom, it shows up as this portal that then can be moved around, right? And if I want it to stay in here, I just hold down spacebar and I hit the pin button. Of course, it wants me to sign in again. Ugh, so frustrating. I hope you guys aren't experiencing that. I can't find anything on why I keep getting signed out. But bear with me. There's my new link. Thank you. Okay, cool. So anyway, I can right-click or hit spacebar and pin. It's already pinned. There we go. Good. And then that'll be locked into this space so someone can click on it whenever they want. I'm going to go ahead and unpin, and then spacebar and delete that and get rid of it. But I just wanted to show you how you can make one, and it gives you that little portal image that kind of is like a little portal from one space to the other. I've actually thought about designing like almost like a Stargate little like 3D form that I could put that portal behind just to give it kind of a frame, but I haven't done it yet. So for the future. But anyway, super easy to add one hub to another. All right, let's go back here. So we, let's see, did view options, we've previewed, we've linked hubs. Let's talk about optimizing scenes. So obviously you want to keep underneath 50,000 triangles if you can. There's a great article I've linked to that you'll have with this video lesson today of improving your performance, how to optimize images and videos, how to compress your images that you're going to put in the hub using Save for Web in Photoshop. Don't make them too huge. You don't need high-res images. It all counts on the performance. Optimizing your 3D models. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and keeping your poly count low. And so there's this great little like stats you can turn on up here at the top, toggle stats, and it'll kind of tell you what's going on right now, like what's your frames per second it's playing back at, the number of calls going on online, the number of triangles. Like I have 5,807 triangles in here right now, well under the 50,000. But it is using a good bit of my memory, so you can toggle that on and off. And like I said, when you go to publish this, you can also do that check So I'm going to do save test 2, save and publish. And here's where you get that performance check that really gives you a nice rundown of what's going on in the scene. But I'm going to go ahead and close this right now and leave it. And go to Maya for a second. So I'm going to open up Maya. This is where it's important to like not smooth and subdivide too much. You don't want to create super complex models to go in. I mean, you can bring them in, but it'll take your scene a really long time to load. And it can cause all kind of performance issues on older machines. You'll hear the fans coming on, all sorts of fun stuff. Bear with me while Maya loads. It's faking me out, thinking it's loaded, but it's really not loaded. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go Maya Classic. So if I create a scene in here or a model in here, right off the bat, one of the things I can do is do my heads-up display. So if I come and bear with me, I always forget where it's at. I think it's up under heads-up display. There we go. And then I can show poly count. And I believe, there it is, cool. So now I have a heads-up display here in the top left that's showing my number of vertices, edges, UVs, etc. And then I can also, under that heads-up display, decide like what all it shows. So there's just a lot you can do in here. Let's see. I don't want XGen. Let's see if I can get object details. At least I have vertices, edges, and faces. That'll help out a lot. I don't know if I can actually get a triangles one. I'll have to look into that for you. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let me see if select details give us anything else. Selected objects, no, it's just one. But anyway, that gives you some information on numbers of faces, which is, in this case, it's quads. In Maya, we try to keep with quads instead of triangles, but it still tells you like how many faces you're working with. And so if I do like, if I come into here and I go to my faces and I start extruding this model and do, start to actually create some kind of complex form and move it around here, and I'll just play around here a little bit. Just doing a little extrusion-based modeling. Whoop. All right. Say I've created this strange little creature with a snout coming out. If I go up to, didn't mean to do that, but if I go to hit number 3 on my keyboard, I can see what this will look like smooth in my smooth preview, right? But ultimately, when I go back to this is what I have, which is a pretty low poly count model. Like as I have this selected, I'm still only using 26 faces so far, 52 edges, 28 vertices. So it's pretty low on the poly count. But if I take this and I go to like my modeling toolkit and I decide I want to smooth it, just watch out how many times you do it. 1 or 2 subdivisions is fine, but you can see how fast the number of faces has now gone up to 416. Each time I do this, now I have quadrupled that. Now I'm up to 1664. When I'm trying to stick under 50,000, if I put too many things like this into my scene because I want them to be smooth with all this detail, I am going to overload Mozilla Hubs. Particularly important if you're creating big environments and landscapes. This is just designing. It's like you can do a lot with your textures and shaders inside of Adobe Dimension and inside of Substance Painter to make up for low polygon meshes, okay? So stick in the hundreds. Don't let them get up into the thousands. This is smooth enough of an object that I could add a whole bunch of surface detail in my shaders that I add in Substance Painter and in Dimension, okay? So that's my warning there. Keep your poly count low, your faces low, and vertices and edges low, and you're going to be a lot better off when we're back inside of Hubs, okay? Let's see. Oh, and then I want to talk a little bit about spatialized audio again. Like I said, if in this one, remember how when we moved around the room, you really couldn't hear the audio until you were standing right in front of the model? Well, that's because I spent so much time spatializing the audio on each of these videos, right? So if I come over here to the first one and I click on it, if I can get it to, there we go. Down here on the right in the properties, you'll notice I have changed to panner mode. There's stereo and panner mode. And then I have played with the volume, but I've also played with distance model. I think by default it was on like exponential, and I changed it to linear. And then you have to play around with distances. So these are actual meters of distance based on the size of your space. So I had to have like the maximum distance that the audio would play was 7 meters, and then a reference about 1 meter would be optimal. And then I played with this cone inner angle and whatnot, like how far of a range you would hear it. Because otherwise, if I hadn't done this, all the audio kind of overlapped in the space, and it was this crazy cacophony of audio overlapping. You couldn't hear anything because like one video was playing on top of the other. So I've included a link that goes into this in a lot more detail on how to spatialize this audio, but I just wanted you to understand that everything you add that has an audio component, whether it's an MP3 file or a video file, you have these properties in here when you scroll down that allow you to play with that, okay? And so, yeah, definitely check them out and make sure that you spatialize accordingly with what you want. You can always have one sound that's like an ambient file. I'll just hide them sometimes in a little crack somewhere, just like a little MP3 file that's sort of like the overall scene audio, and everybody can hear it everywhere. Just have it, play in its normal default. But then I might want to have like little micro sounds that people come across. Oh, and I almost forgot. There's this cool feature called Enable. Under Developer here, Enable Experimental Features. And when you do that, it adds one new thing called Trigger Volume. And I've put a link to this. Trigger volumes actually allow you to trigger. Right now, they only allow you to trigger sound on a video or an animation or a sound file based on proximity or if you touch an object. It is going to become something a bit more experimental with interaction in the future, but if you want to create some interactive elements, check out the link that I have that goes over it in detail. I haven't done it yet myself, so I don't want to give you a lesson on it until I do, but it's a new feature, and I just wanted you to see that there's this like I said, under Developer, Disable or Enable Experimental Features. We'll show you new features as they add them to Mozilla Hubs. All right, I think that's enough for now. I'm going to stop this lesson. As always, thanks for tuning in, and reach out if you have any questions.